They run world governments, they start wars, they trigger wildfires with secret space lasers and somehow control the weather. Their hidden fortune, $500 trillion. You've read all of this somewhere online. True or not, it's everywhere. But how much of it have you actually looked into? If you're eating, prop your phone up. If you've got nothing going on, grab a coffee and settle in. And if your hands are free, hit subscribe and like. That's all I ask. Let's get into it. $500 trillion, 50 trillion more than the combined total of all private wealth on Earth. Which raises one obvious question. If a single family controls more wealth than every private fortune on the planet, why does only one Rothschild show up on the Forbes list? The answer is simpler than you'd think. That number is completely fabricated. In 1846, a French propagandist writing under the pen name Satan, real name Mathieu Georges d'Ironvael, invented it out of personal hatred for the Rothschild family. But here is the thing. The real story is far more surprising than any conspiracy theory, far more useful, and far more dangerous, because anyone can replicate it. Today I'm not going to tell you how these two families secretly run the world. I'm going to tell you why neither of them ever needed to. Cleveland, Ohio. John D. Rockefeller is 16 years old. His family has no money. He drops out of high school and goes to work as a bookkeeping apprentice. A few cents an hour. At the time, oil was turning up all over the place, and almost nobody cared. It was black mud, no known value, no cars yet. People lit their homes with whale oil, and whales were running out. Rockefeller looked at oil and saw something nobody else did. The future. By the 1860s, the oil industry was drowning in oversupply. Prices had cratered. Everyone was panic selling. Rockefeller partnered with financier Henry Flagler and launched Standard Oil. His plan was simple and ruthless. Buy every small refinery in the market, raise cash by issuing shares, use that cash to undercut competitors on price, drive them to the edge, then give them one choice: join me or go under. In just 4 months, he bought 22 of the 26 refineries in Cleveland. History gave this operation a name, the Cleveland Massacre, but that was only the visible part of Rockefeller's play. Back then, finding oil was easy, moving it was hard. Transportation costs ate up nearly half the price of the oil itself. Shipping companies and railroads were gouging everyone. Rockefeller refused to stay dependent on them. He built his own pipelines, over 4,000 miles, crossing state lines. That single move drove a third of the country's 360 railroad companies into bankruptcy. He had monopolized the entire oil industry, so completely that mothers used to warn their kids, "Behave yourself, or Rockefeller will come for you." In 1911, the US Supreme Court broke Standard Oil apart on antitrust grounds. 34 separate companies, the giants we know today, Exxon, Chevron, are their descendants. His rivals thought the ruling had finally finished him. The shares of the broken-up companies doubled within a year. The largest penalty in history created the largest fortune in history. And Rockefeller didn't build this monopoly alone. The power backing him, financing him from across the ocean, was another dynasty entirely. The Rothschilds. Frankfurt, 1740s, Judengasse, the Jewish alley, a tiny house crammed with 30 people. Meyer Amschel Rothschild grows up here, an orphan, penniless. In the Europe of his time, a Jewish man faces legal barriers at every turn. But Meyer noticed something. The aristocrats of Europe were obsessed with rare coin collecting. That obsession was a door. Meyer worked his way into the court of Prince Wilhelm. He became a financial advisor. and he perfected what we'd now call front-running. While buying rare coins on behalf of the prince, he'd quietly purchase them for himself first, then sell them to the prince at a markup. He pocketed both the commission and the spread, but his real move came through his sons. He sent 5 of them to 5 major European capitals: Frankfurt, London, Paris, Vienna, Naples. Each one founded a bank, all of them part of the same family. This wasn't just geographic expansion, this was an information network. Private couriers, fast horses, carrier pigeons. The Rothschilds received news hours before any government did. They built their positions before the markets ever reacted. You've probably heard the Waterloo story. Nathan Rothschild learning of Napoleon's defeat a full day before the British government and manipulating the markets to make a fortune. That story is completely fabricated. Nathan wasn't even near Waterloo that day. The man who invented it was that same French propagandist from 1846. But here's what actually happened. The Rothschilds analyzed the trajectory of the war before Waterloo. They quietly accumulated British bonds that had lost most of their value. When peace came, those bonds surged. It wasn't conspiracy, it was information, timing, and analysis, ahead of everyone else. Now let's get to the question everyone actually wants answered. How did these families hold on to their wealth with a strategy that almost no one in 2026 would agree to follow? Mayor Amschel's instructions were clear. Wealth stays inside the family. No inheritance to daughters. The men marry their cousins. Would you follow that rule if your own father wrote it into his will? 14 of the 19 Rothschild marriages in the 3rd generation were within the family, but even that strategy had its limits. In 1938, Nazi Germany annexed Austria. The Rothschilds lost everything: banks, palaces, irreplaceable art collections, all seized. Baron Louis Rothschild was released for one of the largest ransoms of the era, $21 million, $500 million in today's money. There's one reason both families reached this level: real intelligence. When the railroads tried to squeeze Rockefeller with high fees, he didn't complain. He built his own pipelines. When the Rothschilds were born inside a ghetto with no legal rights, they didn't accept their circumstances. They built the first private intelligence network connecting all of Europe. You might be thinking, how do I build my own pipeline? How do I open a bank in every country? The point you're missing is that none of this happened overnight. Both families shared one thing. They didn't look where everyone else was looking. Rockefeller didn't focus on the oil. He focused on moving it. The Rothschilds didn't focus on the money. They focused on the speed of information. Both of them saw the system before their competitors did. And once they saw it, they built the infrastructure around it. Today, the formula has different names. Transportation infrastructure is fiber optic cable. Information asymmetry is data. Monopolization is platform economics. If you want to understand why Amazon built its own logistics network, why Goldman Sachs feeds its own news pipeline, look at what Rockefeller and the Rothschilds did. Same formula, different century. Real power isn't conspiracy. It's seeing what no one else sees and moving before anyone else does. When this formula breaks down during hyperinflation, war, and collapse, which assets survived every major crisis in history? We broke that down with data pulled from Weimar to Venezuela, Zimbabwe to Lebanon. That video is on your screen.